You need to believe that the best is yet to come. You need to have the belief that the best is yet to come in your business, that the best is yet to come in your marriage, the best is yet to come with a connection with God. If you don't have the belief that God is working in your life, that God wants to bless you and God wants to fulfill you, that God wants to just prosper you, then you're always going to blame God. If you don't have the belief that the best is going to happen in your relationship, that you're going to work it out, that you're going to see better days, you're not going to fight for it. If you don't have the belief that in your business, the best is yet to come, that you're going to increase your revenue, that you're going to find innovation, that you're going to find more clients, you're going to find a way to systematize your business. If you don't have the belief, nothing is going to happen. Welcome to the Got Money and Sex Podcast. My name is Raul Velasquez. I'm here with my beautiful co-host,
Vivian Velasquez. So excited to be here with you, my love.
I'm excited to be here because we missed it last week. Last week I had my bootcamp experience, the next level experience, the Edge program, when I had a bunch of high-level, successful businessmen coming to get their asses kicked.
And that's the only time that we really miss it. If you are there serving your men. And I actually came into the office and I did a Facebook Live. I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, but yeah, we missed you.
It seems like a long time. It seems like we haven't been here for a couple of weeks, but
it's 1 week.
Welcome. If you're watching us for the first time, just follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook. Comment below if you're watching this podcast live, and give us some questions that we answer the questions as best as we can. If you listen to us in the podcast, just subscribe. We have weekly podcast. Vivian has her content online. I have my content online. So we appreciate you following. We appreciate your attention, and we're going to do our best to bring you the best insights that we've gotten for this week. So let's get started. What do you got, babe?
Awesome.
What do you got?
I don't even know what title it was for today, but I know that we wanted to talk a little bit about what happened last week. And first of all, I just want to say, like, to the men that were out there, most of the time I get to go and speak to them for at least a couple hours. And for me, it's always such a humbling experience to be there. And I think humble is just one word. I'm just like in awe of how eager they are to learn and how they really want to change. And I know most of the time, like, I talk to the women and I tell them, like, we have an advantage because our men are out there wanting to change, looking for change. And that's always like the hardest part to have that in the relationship. It's like when one person is changing, sometimes there's a struggle because the other person doesn't want to change. And I get that. But at least in this part, like the next level experience, I'm teaching the men, and they're eager for change and they want the change, and like they want their awareness to grow. And then now, since I'm stepping into my truth, then I am helping the women also understand, and for both of them to grow together, because we've been in this place in the past where, like, you wanted to grow and you were investing in yourself, and then I was left behind. And I know we talk a little bit about this during the events, but you know what? It's a place where we feel alone. And I think, like, we feel, especially when you've been in a marriage for so long, like all of a sudden you want to change. All of a sudden you're going to invest in yourself. And then the truth is, like, we feel like unseen and we feel unloved.
I think that we, like, as men, the hardest thing for us to do is raise our hand saying that we need help.
Yes, and that's why I applaud them.
I honor every single man that goes into a personal development program, that attends seminars, that reads books, that tries to get better themselves, because that's the hardest shit for us to do. The hardest thing for a man is
to make that choice.
To make the choice and say, you know what, I can't do this alone, because we've been conditioned. Be conditioned to believe that we could figure this out. We've been conditioned to believe that we got this, because as a man, that's what our parents taught us, to not to cry, to man up, to figure shit out. But at the end of the day, you know, it's when some of the guys I work with, they're successful. They're making money. You know, the success is not the problem.
The business is not the problem.
Is the loneliness sometimes of the disconnect that we create, because we build walls. As a man, we build walls. And I think that every time that we build a wall, the people who care about us, we're separating ourselves from them. And that includes our wives. And I've done so many times. Like, I'm like, don't fuck with me, Vivian. I'm trying to build a business. Don't get into my wall. I'm in the zone. I'm in the mission. And in the past, that warrior mentality created separation between you and me, and created separation at the end between God and me. Because I think that a lot of these men, when they came, they all had armors on. They all have armors. They're like, a couple of guys who challenged me. There was a doctor there with a PhD. There was a guy that owned a multi-million-dollar company from Mexico. And they all looked at me and said, Raul, what are you going to teach me? I've done everything. I've already read everything. Like, what can you possibly teach me? And I love that challenge because at the end, it's not me.
Yeah.
What I told him is I'm not going to teach you shit.
Yes.
I'm here to help you remember and discover. And then every time before these events, I get into a place of surrendering because I know it's not me.
Yeah.
Like I'm asking God and I'm asking the universe to really come through me and allow me to create a space for these men to find their truth, to find their purpose, to find their beliefs. Because I truly believe that every single man that comes to this type of programs, they're looking for purpose, they're looking for truth, they're looking for the next level. And sometimes they need somebody that is in their face to help them see what the next level looks like.
Yeah, and I think you're right what you said. Like, they come in with an armor. And, and that's the part that I admire the most when, like, I'm sitting in front of them. And I just ask them to continue to be vulnerable because I think that's a place that a lot of us don't go. And even on this event, like I told them, I'm like, if you need to physically, emotionally pretend that you're taking out this armor from your body, like do that. Because I need to see your heart, like I need to feel you. And that is something that maybe you weren't doing at home. And I know that's how it was for us because, like you said, like, you're this high level entrepreneur that are going 110 miles an hour when you're out there and you give it your all. And then you come back home and either like you don't want to play full out because you're already tired and you come in, or you're still wearing this heavy armor and you don't allow your partner or your spouse to really see what you're going through because, you still have this heavy armor on. So I told him, I'm like, visualize in your head that you're actually taking something off, that you're actually like taking off this heavy, bloody, dirty armor that you've worked throughout the day. And that's kind of like this transition that needs to happen when you come home. And we talked a little bit about this. It's like, and we've talked about it in the past. It's like, how can you let go of that? And how can you come home instead of giving your all out there and then come home and giving like the shitty part of you, the part that is depleted, the part that is, whether it's angry or anxious or just tired, then you come home and it's like you have nothing left to give.
I think that we create an armor when we go into battle in our business, and we are being hit left and right, problems, challenges, emergencies, urgencies. So when we are in that zone, we come back home and we're exhausted.
Yes.
And we are energetically, emotionally, physically exhausted. And then when we have a partner, a wife that is like, okay, I want you to see me. I want you to, to look at me. I want you to pay attention to me. Like,
no, it's like, what about me?
Like, what about me? Okay, whatever you want, honey. Like, we don't want to battle. We don't want to fight. And then, like we're talking about right before this podcast, like the difference is, man, we're lions in the office, but we become tame and circus lions, more like pussycats at home.
Yeah.
We become pleasers at home. We could be badasses and kicking ass in the office and in business, but when it comes to our home life, we're just pleasers, and we just give up. We just give up our power and said, hey, whatever you want. And I think that's the polarity shift, where that affects men, because that's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. It's like at the beginning of a marriage, maybe that could work. At the beginning of a business, maybe that could work. Long term, that's not sustainable. Long term, because that's going to deplete. I mean, it has happened to us many times. It depletes emotionally. It takes away from clarity. It takes away from being focused, and you create an armor against God too. Like, so many times I felt like where's God in my life? Is God really working through me? Because it seems like nothing is working. And sometimes we just feel like we are alone.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say that. I think maybe because you have everything like to yourself with this armor on top of you, then it's like you feel like you got to take care of it all. So, like God can't help you because it's like, I'm carrying this, and my wife can't help me because I got to protect it. So it becomes like this, like I. And it was something so beautiful that one of the participants there said to me, like something about like, we're keeping score. It's kind of like a game. So when I come home, like I need to get like a point or a check or whatever he said. And I was like, well, are you in this marriage? Are you in this relationship to play a game to win? Like, are you winning points, or do you want to win your wife? do you want to win her back? Do you want to win with love, or do you just want to win with points and have like a big scoreboard, and all of a sudden like you have a scoreboard and you don't have a relationship? So a lot of the times it's like bringing that awareness to like, what is it that we want? And I think we don't take the time to really ask or listen to the question. It's like, what is it that I even want my relationship to look like? And like that alone is huge. Like that question, like, what do you want your relationship to look like? And I know like that's how it was for us. Like even now, like we still go through challenges, and you know, now like I find myself like working on my stuff, and it's so draining. And then I have to catch myself like not to give it my all just to that place, not just to my business, but also to allocate it to like, you know, my feminine being, my self-care, and my kids. And to you, like, you know, we have to like implement all these things that we're learning. And I think that's like the hardest thing, because it's like we're teaching something and it's so vivid in our mind, but not unless we implement it on daily basis, then it doesn't become part of us.
And the thing to do is to get a strategy.
Yeah.
You can't do this by winging it. You can't do this by just thinking it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us as men, we think, okay, if I could just create a strategy in business, it's going to work, but then we don't have a strategy at home. We don't have a strategy with a connection with God. We don't have a strategy of what we're going to do to feed, what we call feeding the king.
Yep.
So one of the strategies I want to share with you guys and here is, number one is take ownership. The strategy number one that will prevent you from having challenges with your wife or even people around you is like, own your shit. Like, take ownership. Don't blame the other person. Maybe the marriage is not the way they want it. Maybe the business is not the way that you want it. Maybe a connection with God is not the way they want it. But at the end of the day, if you take ownership and said, okay, I'm taking ownership of the things that I could have done better, the things that I didn't do, or the things that I'm doing. The moment that you take ownership, you actually are taking responsibility and the power to do something about it. Most of us, what we do is, if she changes, then it's going to get better. If he changes, it's going to get better. If the market changes, it's going to get better. No, adapt to the change. Everything is going to change. Your partner is going to change. The business is going to change. If you refuse to change, things are not going to get better. So number one is responsibility.
Take responsibility for the things that you're doing. And it's funny because it was something with Alejandro that he said to me. And, you know, like I always feel like we have two small kids, and not small kids. Now they're 12 and 13. But they always like teach us so much. And they are like our greatest teachers, really. Like always something comes up. And he was saying like he was mad at something, and it was mad at himself. And he said, Mom, it's so much easier when somebody else does something to you, so you could blame them for it and you don't have to take responsibility for it. But in this case, like, I'm mad at myself, and it's not a good place. And, you know, transformation may not be a good place. You changing may not be the most, you know, fulfilling, loving place. But I could say that once you become a little bit more aware of the things that need to change, and to me, like, awareness is, you know, breaking away from the illusion of what the world told you to do, breaking away from the illusion of like things in the past, the way that it was in the past. For me, like, awareness is like, what feels good to me at this moment, for this version, for Vivian right now, and what is going to be like the greatest, best impact. And I think like once I go from there, and it's like, oh, okay, taking responsibility might be the best thing right now, because I'm sure there is something that I could be responsible for, even though I may not want to see it. And that's how it was for my son that day. He was like, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to take responsibility for it, but I know that I had to.
And the second thing is awareness, right? The awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool to see like my son at that age to have the awareness of his emotions. I mean, we call this, what we do, we call it emotional fitness, right? Yeah. Emotional fitness for high level entrepreneurs, emotional fitness for high achievers, emotional fitness for having a better understanding of where you're going. And I think the awareness is key, awareness of who's showing up. Because when I teach my guys, there's three versions of you that shows up. Either the peasant shows up and the peasant looks to blame, the peasant looks to, you know, to point fingers, or the warrior shows up. The warrior is the one who's like, who the fuck are you? Like, you owe me this. Like, you know, I'm doing this for you. And the warrior wants to burn shit to the ground. The warrior wants to like pick fights. The warrior wants to go to battle. Or is the king going to show up? The king mindset, when the king says, okay, what's the best for the kingdom? What's best for the whole? What's best for the entire family, not just what's best for one person. Yeah. And if you start thinking about having the awareness of who's showing up at one point, then you could make choices based on that version of yourself.
Yeah, we have something a little bit similar to that I teach the girls, when it comes to like different energies. And I think I did it last week even. That's why it's so vivid in my mind. It's having like that mothering energy, the temptress energy, and the queen energy. And those are all three energies that we could call forth. But I think a lot of the times, like you say, like there was no awareness between those energies or whatever's happening at the moment, that we just react to whatever's happening. So I think like if you get anything out of this podcast, it's like, take the time to actually pause and ask yourself, like, one, who needs to take responsibility for this moment, and what energy needs to come forth at this moment? Like, who do I need to be to make things better, right? And just going back to the energies, like if you think about like your mothering energy, I think a lot of us women, like we live there for way too long, and even though it's good and it's there's so much beautiful things that come from it, the nurturer and the taking care of and the giver, there's so much around it. I think that once we lose, there's also like the shadow part. If we live on it too long and we, instead of taking care of, we want control, and then we lose ourselves, right? And then we talk about the temptress energy, which is maybe something that we talk about in this podcast a little bit more, because it has to do with the sex part. Is this energy that we put aside? Sometimes it collects dust in this box, this beautiful box, this beautiful decorated box. It collects dust because we put it aside, whether because somebody shamed that part of us, or because they made us feel guilty about something that we did, or just maybe even things that we say to ourselves, because I talk a lot about that. It's like the things that we say to ourselves sometimes are more harmful than what other people say. So maybe like we've said something in the past that made that part of us wrong, and then when we need to use it, then it's not easy for it to come forth. And then maybe that's when we see this polarity issues, because if your man is coming home and you're not really in this energy, like how can there be any polarity? How can there be any attraction? How can there be any like temptation between the two of you if that doesn't exist in your body? And I'm not blaming anyone, because I know like I've been there for too long in the past, but it's like when we become aware, when it's like, okay, I'm gonna let go of this illusion that maybe that energy doesn't exist anymore, but it's like, can I bring that forward? Can I take the dust off this box, and then can I open it up and see what's inside? Can I become curious of what it looked like or what it felt like? And then when I look at it, can I try it on again? Can I make the time to actually see what it felt like in the past? And the minute that we start to remember, it just comes back alive, because the body knows.
Yeah. And here's how that applies. So I'll give you a little story. Vivian and I, we've been married for 20 years. We have already 2 kids. They're, close to teenagers. My son is a teenager. My daughter is 12 years old, almost a teenager. And we've, in the last, ever since we hired a sex coach, we had a really good sex life.
At the beginning, when we did it?
I'm saying right now, in the last couple of years.
Okay.
So recently, on the summer, around July, we bought a dog. And after we bought a dog, I could really start timing the times that we started having less and less and less sex, until I realized just a couple of weeks ago, we were out dating, and I said, babe, realize that we're not having as much sex as we used to have before. And it's not because we don't want to. It's because there's something in there. There's something that, like, I come home and you don't want to have sex, I don't want to have sex, and we both realize it's the fucking dog. It's a fucking dog that's there, because the dog sleeps in our bed. The dog is in our room, and you automatically get into the mother energy.
I was going to say that it has nothing to do with the dog. It has to do with the energy that I carry. It's like I become this mother, this nurturer, taking care of this little baby of mine, tucking him in and making sure that everything's okay. And if he's coughing, if something's coming up, like I need to be there for him. And then that takes away from like me slipping into this other energy, right? So it has nothing to do with the dog.
The warrior wants to go to war and say this fucking dog is the one that's taking the energy.
Eliminate the dog.
So then we started having the conversation. I started looking at this dog, and the dog just wants to be loved. The dog is a cute dog. And,
he's a baby.
And then I started thinking, okay, what would the king do? And I started realizing that I was allowing that, and we were not having the communication, or where were the energy and the polarity happening. It was happening. And then the moment that we had a conversation, the moment we became aware of it, we were able to handle it.
And I have to say, like, you really handled it very well, because like we had this conversation, and at the end of the night, I'm like, forget this. This is not my dog. I'm taking him out. And I actually picked him up, and like
but
that.
I didn't have the heart to leave him outside.
That was like, okay, who's first? Is it my dog or is it my king? I was like, it's my king. So I took the dog and I put him outside the door, and then
cold weather. It was cold, freezing outside.
He's not outside. He's outside our door, our bedroom door. So I just put him out in the hallway. Our house is big enough, and I put him outside, and he's just laying there, and I go into the bathroom so I could take a shower and like get ready. And then all of a sudden I turn around, because he follows me everywhere. Then I turn around and I see him like bringing in his cover, like he was holding it in his mouth.
That was the saddest thing.
Yes, and I just looked away, and then you're like, okay, you picked him up and you put him back inside, and you like put the cover in the bed. But at the same time, we continued, like it had nothing to do with the dog. Yeah, right. We
had epic sex, and it was good because I was able to turn off that mentality, that energy of the dog being there, and
also because I took responsibility, and it's like, well, how can I show up for myself, and how can I show up for you? Putting aside, like, okay, the dog is just a dog. It cannot interfere in what we've already built and what we worked so hard for. Like, he's not gonna come and tear it apart in the this couple of weeks.
And we see so many women with these little dogs, and now I understand. Like, little dogs feeds a need, that emotional need.
Of course, they're so loving, and it gives you so much significance.
And then the guy goes second now, because now the woman doesn't need, like, first is the kids, then is the dog, and then is the man in the house. So a tip is a tip for the guys who listen: don't get your wife a dog.
Don't get a puppy. Don't get a cute puppy.
If you want to have more sex, don't get rid of the dog.
Don't get a cute puppy.
Or bring the awareness so you can have the conversation and go around.
Yeah, because it has nothing to do with the dog. If it's not the dog, it will be the kids. If it's not the kids, it will be like a new friend or grandkids or whatever it is. It's like there's so much distractions that happen throughout life from this world. If it's not one thing, it's another. I think it's just you having the conversation of like, okay, hey, this is what needs to change. This is what I'm missing. This is what I'm longing for. This is what we need. Like, and that's what we say all the time. It's like, when I forget, you remind me. When you forget, I'll remind you, from a loving, genuine place of like, we've done the work. Like, let's not go backwards, because it's so easy to get back from like where you started.
And that's the third point. Easy. And the third point is, have clear conversations. Bring the conversation forth. I'm so proud of one of the guys who came into the boot camp. When he came back, he was telling his wife, because his wife asked him for divorce a while ago, and then he came to my program and he says, I want to bring my wife back. I want to claim my wife back. I love her. I don't want to divorce her.
Beautiful.
So he went back and he says, Raul, I told her, I said, give me 100 days and I'm going to conquer you hard. After 100 days, if you want to divorce me, that's fine, but just give me 100 days. I said that night he had epic sex, and the wife was like, who the fuck is this guy? Who is this guy that's showing up?
I'll give you 100 days.
I'll give you 100 days after what happened that night. We'll give you 100 days. But at least it's showing up. At least it's having those clear conversations, saying, hey, this is what I need. Yeah. Here is what we're going through, and acknowledging the problem and doing something about it. Because that's number one. So number one thing that we're going to share with you in this podcast that we already shared with you is responsibility. Take ownership. It's not her fault. It's not his fault. Just take ownership, and don't try to blame each other. The moment that you blame each other, there's no upside of blaming.
No.
You can only take ownership and control of what you're going through. The second thing is bring awareness of who's showing up in your relationship, who's showing up in your business, who's showing up in a connection with God. Is it the peasant that is always asking God, please give me this, please take care of me? Is it the peasant that's showing up in your relationship, always blaming other people? Is it the peasant that's showing up in your office, blaming your employees, blaming your customer? Or is it the warrior that wants to just go to battle with God and go to battle with your wife and blaming and trying to just look for problems where there are no problems and burning shit to the ground? Or is it the king? The king that's looking for connection, the king that's looking to create, the king that's looking to expand. And that's when you realize that you have to have conversations to see how are you going to bring that energy forward, how are you going to bring that part of you forward. By having conversations, saying, okay, this is what needs to happen. Like in business, clear strategies of what needs to happen. In relationships, clear conversations of like, how sex do we want to have? Are we having sex? Are we not having sex? And really taking aware of what you're doing, because a lot of us, we just think that winging relationship is gonna be successful.
We talk about this all the time. Nobody ever prepares us for a relationship, and I think very few of us really invest into like having a sex coach and having like seminars and the growth of what relationship could be like. But I think maybe you don't need to do all of that. But if you are willing to have these conversations and have this clear understanding, and it all begins with asking yourself, what it is that you want. And I'm sure like you ask yourself in the morning, like, what do I want for my business as to what do I want for my wife and my relationship and my kids? So it's like, if you don't know what you want, then you don't even know what to ask for. And I think once you become clear on that, then the relationship becomes a little bit easier. Maybe not at the beginning because there's so much change that needs to happen, but take it like one step at a time, but at least take the step. And, you know, like we said, it's just like, bring that awareness of like, what needs to change? What can I do to change? What needs to happen for me to change? And then like there's a ripple effect that happens.
And the last thing I think that we'll close on this is you need to believe that the best is yet to come. You need to have the belief that the best is yet to come in your business, that the best is yet to come in your marriage, the best is yet to come with a connection with God. If you don't have the belief that God is working in your life, that God wants to bless you and God wants to fulfill you, that God wants to just prosper you, then you're always going to blame God. If you don't have the belief that the best is going to happen in your relationship, that you're going to work it out, that you're going to see better days, you're not going to fight for it. If you don't have the belief that in your business, the best is yet to come, that you're going to increase your revenue, that you're going to find innovation, that you're going to find more clients, you're going to find a way to systematize your business. If you don't have the belief, nothing is going to happen.
I believe
that the best is yet to come. That's one of the best taglines that we're constantly reminding each other, like the best is yet to come.
I mean, you say that all the time, but for me, it's like, God has given me everything that I need right now. For me, it's like, I know, and that's the difference between you and I. It's like I'm always in the future and I'm trying to like see what's coming. But for me, it's like right now in this moment, in this present moment. Because I think like as human beings, we're always planning far ahead and maybe too far ahead. And let's just focus on this moment.
That's
and
where you
like,
ground me. That's where you bring me back to the ground. That's what. That's what you have to understand, that when you are with your partner, both of you complement. Vivian compliments me because she's always grounding me. She's like, okay, I know you wanna go to the next level, but you have to enjoy the level that you're in right now. We have to be okay with where we are. And I think that's where a lot of us, especially as entrepreneurs, we get caught up on the one day. One day I want to do this, one day. And then,
or you have plans like so far ahead that you're not focusing on what's in front of you. And I think like God is so good about being prosperous in our life. And it's like, but could you be patient and can you be present to what is happening right now for you to see what needs to change? Because like if we're not present to what's happening right now, if we're not present in our relationship right now, then how could you want a better marriage if you can't handle what's happening in front of you?
That's right.
So I think God is, so merciful and so loving, but at the same time, he's a God of order. And it's like, start one thing at a time and start with what's in front of you.
That's right. So thank you for following us. Thank you for sending us your messages. Thank you for all the feedback that you guys have given us. We constantly get feedback from you. We constantly get the messages.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much.
Every single message.
Yes.
We read every single comment, every single email.
We'll
do our best to answer the questions and understand the best is yet to come.
And for me, enjoy what's in front of you. Enjoy the moments, because this moment never happens again.
Unless you rewind the video and then you watch it again and again. So follow us in Facebook, follow us in Instagram, follow us in YouTube, follow us everywhere except for our bedroom. That's where we keep it private. Thank you. I appreciate you, babe.
I love
appreciate you giving us all your knowledge and insights. Learn it, live it, experience it.
Love life.